Coming up on Valley View News, the cleanup is now underway in a Santa Clarita neighborhood after a massive landslide. We hear from impacted residents. Plus, late Mexican singer Vicente Fernandez is memorialized. And an organization educates on wound shooting prevention.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Aaliyah Fitzgerald.
And I am Lupita Baltazar.
We begin with a new warning from a local health official. They say that a new COVID strain is making its rounds in Los Angeles County. XBB.1.5 is now the dominant variant. It's making up more than 30% of cases since last month. Transmission rates are low and COVID-related deaths or hospitalizations are steady, but the Department of Public Health says that the new strain has more potential to cause infection. Officials are asking residents to consider getting booster shots and testing before attending large gatherings.
Meantime, California's COVID state of emergency is set to end in just a few weeks. It will expire on February 28th. California is one of the last 7 states to still have an emergency order in place. It was issued more than 3 years ago and gave Governor Gavin Newsom the power to issue mandates intended to slow the spread of the virus and bypass certain state laws. Newsom announced the phase out of the order last October. Health officials at a county level say not much would change as jurisdictions have already lifted mask and vaccine mandates. Though the order is coming to an end, they recommend to still practice COVID protections. The cleanup continues in Santa Clarita neighborhood after a massive landslide impacted the area. Valley View News' Zina Taher has details about the extent of the damage.
It's a neighborhood lined with spotless new homes tucked into the hillside. But last weekend, Leo Ardell says he saw a disaster strike in the Skyline Ranch neighborhood of Santa Clarita.
The hill fell. Didn't hear anything.
Across the street from Ardell's house, backyards collapsed and fences fell down. At least 5 homes in the area were evacuated and yellow tagged, but no one was hurt. Ardell and his wife were on a walk when the hillside came crumbling down.
We had noticed that the sidewalk was kind of in a wave. Some was pushed down, some of it was pushed up, but you can tell that the hill collapsed. The neighbors' yards were just completely gone.
So here's the idea. All ground is made up of layers. Let's say that my hand is the solid rock at the bottom, and this is the soil. The homes behind me are built on top of that soil. Any rain event can loosen up that soil and saturate it, cause it to slide off the rock.
Geotechnical type failures, soil failures, are often very difficult to determine the cause, but in this case, it appears that the recent rains may have had something to do with it.
Caparelli says events like this one are rare. In his 16 years working for the city, it's only happened 3 other times. Reporting from Santa Clarita for Valley View News, I'm Zina Taher.
LA Mayor Karen Bass has signed an executive directive to maximize city-owned property for housing. This is the 3rd executive directive that Bass has issued since taking office to address the city's homelessness crisis. She declared a state of emergency as her first official act. The new directive includes a report of all city-owned properties that are vacant or underutilized. The city will assess sites' potential and will then designate housing sites.
Thousands of LAUSD workers have voted to authorize a strike in search for higher pay and more supportive staff. The union says after a year of negotiating, more than 96% of members voted in support of a strike. Dates for the strike have not been set yet, but it could impact around 30,000 workers, including cafeteria workers, bus drivers, special education assistants, and other employees. The union says that it's been negotiating with LAUSD for more than a year, demanding equitable wage increases, more full-time work, respectful treatment, and increased staffing levels. The union's president says several proposals have been rejected by the district. In a statement, LAUSD says it's committed to fair and equitable negotiations that offset the pressures of inflation. A top U.S. official is defending a California bill offering in-state tuition at community colleges to some students living in Mexico. Assembly Bill 91 would create a 5-year program. It would allow low-income students who live within 45 miles of the U.S.-Mexico border to pay in-state tuition. 7 community colleges are participating. It's drawn a lot of criticism from those who say it's a slippery slope. Supporters say it acknowledges the large population of students that live closer to the border.
Getting ready and planning to travel this spring break to Mexico? Well, think about it twice. The U.S. government is warning people do not travel. Experts now say that resort towns that were considered safe may actually be controlled by Mexican drug cartels. U.S. officials say there is a cartel presence in these towns, using them as a way to launder money. The U.S. State Department has issued its strongest possible do not travel warning for 5 Mexican states, including Colima, Michoacán, Sinaloa, Tamaulipas, and Zacatecas, because of crime and kidnapping.
President Biden was greeted with cheers and boos while delivering his State of the Union address last week. Biden spoke on his accomplishments of improving the economy and the end of the pandemic. He also promised to strengthen the country's middle class. When Biden spoke on the Republicans' plans for Social Security and Medicare, he was met with yelling.
When I called Republicans out on this on the State of the Union, it sounded, and they started yelling liar, not all, but started yelling liar, liar. And I said, that means you all are for keeping Social Security? They all stood up, said, yeah. I said, well, we got a deal.
The president says he's open to conversing with party members in his office.
The California U.S. Senate race is starting off quickly. Candidates have reported multi-figure fundraising and campaigning over a year before the elections. The fight for Senator Dianne Feinstein's seat is expected to be most expensive race in the country. Representatives Katie Porter and Adam Schiff have announced their run for the spot, but Feinstein has not said whether she is seeking to run for another term.
Deliveries of gasoline and diesel from Los Angeles have been halted after a leak in a fuel facility pipeline. Pipeline operator Kinder Morgan says the pipeline is 566 miles long. It transports fuel to Barstow, California, and the Las Vegas area. Only the Las Vegas line has been shut down, though. Officials from Las Vegas say that they are monitoring the situation but do not expect an impact. Officials say there were no injuries or fires reported from the incident.
If you're worried about your sky-high gas bill, you're not alone. Many Southern Californians say their bills are soaring. So when is relief coming? Valley View News' Nicole San Juan has the answer.
If the current price inflation wasn't already enough, officials are now warning we might see a possible increase to electricity bills in June. The high rates of natural gas are to blame. Cleata Banks says she opened her January gas bill to find it had nearly tripled in a single month.
61 years, and this is the highest my gas bill ever been in my life.
Southern California Edison is pursuing to increase rates by 4.4%, which would on June 1st.
Very, very depressing because you want to know if you're going to eat or if you're going to pay the gas bill or your rent.
Governor Gavin Newsom has asked federal authorities to investigate the recent spike in natural gas prices. Many utilities have announced help is in the way in form of credits ranging from $90 to $120, but some customers say they'll have to wait weeks for the help to arrive.
Percentage, like maybe like a good, I want to say it would used to be like $40, $60 the most, and it went up to over $100. So yeah, it's gone up a little more than it should.
SoCal Gas says bills will lower in February due to decreased wholesale prices. Reporting from Inglewood, I'm Nicole San Juan for Valley View News.
Past drug offenders are supporting a bill that will make SNAP food assistance accessible to them. The proposal would reverse the lifetime ban established in 1996. It only banned public assistance for those who were convicted of drug felonies. People with murder, rape, or other violent convictions were never affected. Supporters say that they hope the bill is approved to require treatment programs.
Some bad news for those currently receiving CalFresh benefits. Officials say you should expect cuts by the end of the month. The current $300 a month benefits are expected to be reduced to just $23 a month by March. Part of the reason is that extra benefits were given to those needing food assistance during the pandemic. Now they're taking away those benefits because the pandemic is over.
If your family is in need of food assistance, there is some relief. The California Department of Social Services says that they'll provide emergency benefits of up to $939. It's mainly a response to those affected by winter storms, and families with an income of less than $3,130 can apply. Families with at least one member not receiving CalFresh benefits can also apply. Applications can be submitted by phone, online, or in person at the Department of Social Services.
A California bill is proposing up to $2,000 rebates for residents that convert a regular vehicle into an electric vehicle. California Senate Bill 301 is supplementary to the rebates provided from the Zero Emission Aftermarket Conversion Project. It's being sponsored by the Specialty Equipment Market Association, known for their automotive trade shows in Las Vegas. Experts are concerned for the longevity of older cars and the amount of emissions they produce. Part of the goal is having 35% of all sales be electric vehicles by 2026.
A person is dead and another is injured after a violent crash in Chatsworth, and it was all caught on camera. Valley View News' Isabella Warren reports it's not the first time a deadly crash has happened at this intersection.
Surveillance video captures the terrifying moment a black Tesla tries to make a left turn at a busy Chatsworth intersection, ramming into a white Honda. The impact was so powerful, it sent the Honda and the driver rolling into a residential yard. Authorities say firefighters extricated the victim, but he died at the scene. The deadly head-on collision happened early Thursday morning on the corner of Winnetka and Nordhoff. Officials say both lights were green, but an unsafe left turn from the Tesla caused the crash.
As a result of the collision, the white car ended up into the property that's behind us, and the driver of that vehicle was deceased as a result of the collision.
Just hours after the deadly crash, the family of the unidentified victim was at the scene to identify the body, many of them in tears. They say he was in his late 20s.
You know, I have little kids, and it's just sad.
Trey Hobson lives next door to the house that was hit. He says cars often speed through the intersection and go against the signal. He says the homeowners had just fixed their fence from a previous accident.
And I feel sorry for the people who live in this home right here because they have multiple accidents where, cars are going over in their yard. They just replaced their fence.
Behind me, the yellow tape has been taken down and the cars are being towed away. Officers tell me that the driver of the black Tesla is at the Northridge Hospital with minor injuries and is expected to live. Reporting from Northridge for Valley View News, I'm Isabella Warren.
Thank you, Isabella. More to come on Valley View News. Chile is still on fire and the train is causing fires of the state of Ohio.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
It took 20 years and I got my third child who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. We take a look into the international news with Emelie Cuellar in our Digital Media Center. Emelie?
Thanks, Alea. Here's an update on Turkey's recovery of its 7.8 earthquake. Hundreds of thousands are left homeless in the middle of winter, where temperatures drop below freezing. They have no choice but to set up makeshift campsites and roadside campfires. Many officials are still holding out for international aid. Sama Salazar, who lost family in the disaster, spoke with CNN.
Having the help, the awareness that this is still happening, and just getting as many people, all hands on deck.
The first UN aid convoy arrived at Syria bringing tents and bedding. An update on Chile's fire crisis. Massive fires have been raging for more than a week now. At least 26 people have been killed and over 2,000 others are injured. Over 1,500 homes are destroyed. Some regions have temperatures over 100 degrees. The U.S. sent a DC-10 air tanker to help with the firefight. Chilean officials say Brazil, Ecuador, Mexico, and Spain are providing some support. The U.S. Commerce Department is restricting 6 Chinese companies in response to the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down last week. The 6 companies are specializing in science and technology. It is believed they are tied to the Chinese Army's aerospace program, which is trying to use U.S. technology without authorization. The companies are now on the restricted entity list, believed to be a threat to national security. NATO leaders say Ukraine is using up ammunition way faster than allies can provide. The organizations plan to increase weapon stockpiles to aid the country. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says it's the only beginning of Ukraine's struggle with ammunition supply.
What Russia does now, President Putin do now, is to send in thousands of more troops, accepting a very high rate of casualty. Taking big losses, but putting pressure on the Ukrainians.
According to some estimates, Ukraine is using around a third of the amount of daily ammunition compared to Russia. Stoltenberg says allies must be prepared to supply more weapons as Russia begins its spring offensive. New Zealand's largest city is bracing itself for heavy rain, strong winds, and flooding as Cyclone Gabrielle nears the country's coast. Around 50 apartments in Auckland have been evacuated in fear of structural collapse. Beachside communities on the east coast are ordered to evacuate ahead of the expected storms. Conditions are bleak. Electricity is out for around 48,000 homes. Public transportation operations are limited and Air New Zealand has cancelled over 500 flights. State of emergencies are placed in Auckland and at least 6 other regions. Thousands protested outside the Parliament building in Israel. Protesters were heard chanting democracy and no to dictatorship. It comes after Prime Minister Netanyahu announced a plan to completely change the legal system. It would give Parliament the authority to appoint all judges in the country. Netanyahu says the legislation is needed to contain a judicial system with too much power. Opposers of the plan say it will destroy the country's system and remove checks and balances. Back to you in the studio.
After a destructive train derailment caused residents to evacuate, officials are saying it is safe to come back.
With the full support and backing of Governor DeWine, I am happy to announce that the evacuation order is now lifted.
The crash caused a 50-car pileup in Palestine, Ohio. 14 of the cars were filled with hazardous chemicals. The cars continued to burn all weekend, and residents were alerted to immediately evacuate. Governor Mike DeWine says there was a potential for an explosion and deadly shrapnel could travel up to a mile. Authorities decided to do a controlled burn of the hazardous chemicals, causing more residents to be evacuated. The chemical burned created plumes of hydrochloric acid and toxic gas.
The late ranchera music legend Vicente Fernandez was honored in Huntington Park. Valley View News' Andrea Peña Reyes has more on how he was memorialized.
The late Mexican musical icon Vicente Fernandez is now immortalized with a statue at La Plaza Alameda. The 4-town statue of the late singer on a horse is identical to one located at his gravesite in Mexico. Samuel Franco Singh has a tribute to Don Chente, who passed away in 2021. It's like having a temple here in LA. This Vicente Fernandez statue brings us closer to him. The mariachi music and the Mexican flag decorated the pride of the community. Fernandez is considered one of the most popular singers in Mexico history, selling tens of millions of records worldwide. For me, it's a source of pride because we are from the same place, and to have a statue of him in the U.S. makes me very proud. The community showed their love for their idol with banners, costumes, and singing his music. He's an artist we admire, and it's important for the children to learn their roots and recognize his music so it won't be forgotten.
Only 1 year since his passing, Vicente Fernandez legacy continues to cross borders, uniting Mexican Americans and Latinos with their culture. Reporting from Huntington Park, I'm Andrea Peña Reyes for Valley View News.
Artificial intelligence may not be full of right answers as often as you think. The senior vice president of Google and head of Google Search now say artificial intelligence sometimes generate convincing but completely made up answers. The Google officials tell a German newspaper that the company is trying to keep these hallucinations to a minimum. What do you think, Aaliyah?
I think it's crazy. AI taking over? It's pretty scary. What do you think?
I think it's crazy too.
Some bad news for cheese lovers. The oldest cheese shop in Little Italy, Manhattan, is expected to close next month. Aliva Dairy has been in its current location for over 130 years. The owners say that the pandemic took a massive toll on the shop's profits. They had implemented some changes to appeal to the public, even turning the shop into a cafe, but it hasn't been enough to carry on. Though the owners are still holding out for a miracle to save the shop, they say it seems unlikely.
Adidas has parted ways with Kanye West, and the breakup is expected to be an expensive one. The two ended a 9-year partnership after West's anti-Semitic remarks and actions. The company may lose up to $1.3 billion in revenue because they won't be able to sell Yeezy clothes and shoes. The company says it will try to repurpose the items by stripping the Yeezy brand, but it still doesn't expect to balance the losses. The other two options are either to destroy the merchandise or donate it. Yeezy clothes and shoes. What do you think?
They're so expensive, and maybe I'm just a budget girl, but you can't catch me paying $300 for a pair of sneakers.
Neither.
Well, I'm still recovering from a food coma, but when we come back, Super Bowl Sunday lived up to its expectations. We have the details of the big game and Rihanna's all-star performance. Stay with us.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
STEM is everywhere, like here, behind the scenes of The Walking Dead. STEM can create new worlds on and off the screen. The only limit is your imagination. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
The Kansas City Chiefs are the champions of Super Bowl 57. The Chiefs defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in a close 38-35 victory. It was a thrilling game. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes became the first player since 1999 to win a National Football League Most Valuable Player and the Super Bowl. Mahomes played the game despite a right ankle injury. It's the second time the Chiefs won an NFL title in 4 years. I honestly was most invested in Rihanna halftime show. What about you, Aaliyah?
Me too, but I actually really like the mom that had both sons in the Super Bowl. Can you imagine? And she made cookies for both of them.
Crazy.
And the moment many have been waiting for. Rihanna is back and better than ever. She took the stage during the halftime show, and boy, did it live up to its expectations. She performed some of the all-time famous hits. And the 13-minute show opened with Be Better Have My Money and closed with Diamonds. The R&B pop star indirectly made a big announcement by rubbing her belly. After the show, the representative for her announced that she's expecting a second child. I'm pretty sure she actually brought the ka-ka-ka. You know.
She definitely did.
She paid us what she owed us.
Yes. Women made history in the game. For the first time, women pilots led the flyover during the national anthem. They formed a diamond shape over the State Farm Stadium in Arizona. The unique moment celebrates 50 years of women aviators in the U.S. Navy.
And while football fans enjoyed their favorite day of the year, the rest of the viewers enjoyed the commercials. The 30-second ads cost about $7 million a piece. This year, they were full of dogs, food, and celebrities. A-list actors Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez made their Super Bowl ad debut. The couple was in the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Affleck directed and starred in the ad, and he's working in the drive-thru. Lopez comes by, surprising him.
With the sports season kicking off, doctors say there's a way to prevent injuries. Orthopedic sports medicine surgeon Dr. Anthony Hiew says conditioning can help. It's all about strength training and stretching exercises. Hiew says they increase the cardiovascular system's performance since athletes are prone to physical and psychological stress. Rest is essential for recovery.
On to other news. When it comes to the treatment of open wounds, following the basic proper care and steps may be the difference between life and death. Valley View News' Maximus Osborne takes us to a class that demonstrates just that.
The Monterey Park shooting tragedy on Lunar New Year was yet another instance of America's mass shooting issue. 11 people died, but surprisingly enough, experts say a majority of victims of mass shootings don't die from the gunshots they sustained, but from bleeding out. Kelly Smith is a nurse practitioner.
I think that all the shooting crises it's a terrible epidemic that's happening right now, and I think what it does do is spark the interest in learning how to do this.
Catch it and then you twist.
She's talking about open wound treatment. Smith is also an instructor for the Stop the Bleed organization. They offer free classes all over the United States. At Stop the Bleed, students are able to learn different techniques and work with different props to learn how to pack wounds and apply tourniquets to save somebody's life. Smith says the most important thing is to call 911 for emergencies, locate the wounds, analyze bleeding patterns, pack the wounds, and when to apply a tourniquet. These techniques are highly valuable as mass shootings are becoming a more prevalent issue.
Holding direct, continuous pressure on that wound will save that person's life.
Stop the Bleed also do these demonstrations at different levels of school. Smith's son, Charlie, who was in 5th grade, had a few demonstrations.
The first time I learned it, I didn't have the knowledge, but it's always pretty cool.
StopTheBleed.org also offers online courses or will help find a course near you. Reporting from Riverside, I'm Maximus Osborne.
And now this is one of my favorite stories of the whole newscast, because if you love football and puppies, this is a story for you. How cute. Team Fluff is the winner of this year's Puppy Bowl, defeating Team Rough. 87-83, dogs earn winning points by drawing chew toys to end zones. Guess what? The Puppy Bowl also has halftime show. This year's performance was by a group of rescue cats. The event raises awareness for puppy adoptions. Since the show was pre-taped, some dogs have already been adopted. However, some are still looking for a home and are available on the Discovery website. If I was them, I would adopt all the puppies. I love them.
That's so cute. And there was a couple of Pomeranians, and I have a Pomeranian at home named Tofu, and he's so spoiled. He's my entire world.
That's all for us at Valley View News. I am Lupita Baltazar.
And I'm Aaliyah Fitzgerald. For stories any time of day, go to our website, CSUNValleyView.com. Thanks for watching.